With everyone getting into Smash DLC, Banjo, Hero, Joker, Plant, out of all of them, there's only really like one character so far that I haven't really had that much experience playing their games, and that one is pretty much Hero. And apparently, if you go by the majority of the Western audience, that seems to be a lot of people. I've already played Banjo-Kazooie, I've played Persona 5 and Persona games before that, and of course I've played a lot of Mario to play with Plant, or at least get to know who the Plant is, even if he's not really a character. But I know basically very little about Dragon Quest. Now, that doesn't mean that I started playing Dragon Quest after Hero got in. I actually have played Dragon Quest games before he became a character in Smash Ultimate. I have played some of the Builders games, which I know are spin-offs. I have played Dragon Quest 7 and Dragon Quest 8, which I think 7 was a PlayStation 1 game that was on 3DS, and then Dragon Quest 8 was a PS2 game that ended up going on 3DS. The problem with those games, though, is that I didn't finish them. And at the time of me playing them, I didn't realize they were from a franchise with such a history behind them. I was kind of young, and I didn't really know what Dragon Quest was as a franchise and what it did for JRPGs and, that sort of thing. So I didn't really know anything, really, about any of that shit going on. And when I was playing them, I thought that they were just, like, RPG games that had no connection to anything, which is weird because you would think I would see the 7 and the 8 and kind of put 2 to 2 together, but no, I did not. I was just a dumb kid who didn't really realize what I was playing. But, with Hero getting into Smash, it kind of reminded me of this franchise, so I started going back and playing some of the games. And you may have noticed that the gameplay you're seeing now are all from the very first Dragon Quest. Yeah, I went back and played the very first Dragon Quest when they put it on Switch, and I know some Dragon Quest purists will go on a limb and say that the port on the Switch is not perfect because it is based off the mobile port, which is not the best version of the first Dragon Quest. But I wanted to play it in the most convenient way possible that is available to me, and I didn't really want to go buy emulator. I just wanted to go, I wanted to, actually buy the game and support it in some sense. And it's only like $5 on the Switch, so I figured fuck it, it's easy enough. I'll be able to experience it and play it and all that. And it's odd because I found myself comparing it a lot to the first Final Fantasy, primarily because they're both Square and they're both games from that era. So I kind of just ended up comparing a lot, and while I did play both of them, I think just like the title of this video says, I think I just fell in love with Dragon Quest, and I don't know what it is about it. I think it's the charm, the music, the character designs, the monster designs, that sort of thing, that made me just fall in love with what Dragon Quest is. Because I played the first Dragon Quest, and compared to the first Final Fantasy, it's not as grindy as Final Fantasy. In Final Fantasy 1, I found myself a lot of the time making it to an area that required me to grind for like 3 hours or so to be able to prepare for the dungeon that's coming up next. I think in the first Dragon Quest, I only really had to do that like once ever, and then the rest of the game was basically smooth sailing, and it was very simple, very quick to understand. It wasn't very long, so it didn't really take, too much of my time, which is weird considering, JRPGs pretty much rule your whole life whenever you decide to start one. But with that being said, I also look back at, some of the other games out there. I'm planning on buying Dragon Quest 2 and 3, but right now, I'm playing through Dragon Quest 11, since, that's the game that just came out on Switch, and it's the newest one. So I didn't want to just, not play it, because I already owned it, and I just, didn't want to completely ignore it in favor of playing every game in order. And Dragon Quest 11, it's kind of interesting because I went from the very first Dragon Quest and it just skipped way ahead to the current one, and I still feel that Dragon Quest charm to it. And I don't know if that's the thing that makes the Japanese love this series so much, but I think it's what makes me seem to get really interested. I love the designs behind everything. I love the music. I love the world to explore, and I don't know if it's really the same thing or not, but the way you're able to explore the world kind of just reminds me of old school JRPGs compared to newer games, which isn't a bad thing, by the way. I actually really like that. I just feel like it's two different styles, and I do know that some people were not big on the music of Dragon Quest 11, but I'm not sure if that's because it is bad compared to the rest of the games in the series, or if it's because of the PS4 version, which didn't have orchestral like tracks. You know, when we got the definitive edition on Switch, they kind of redid like I think 90% of the music or something with all, you know, orchestrated tracks. If that's the case, then I can see why I don't seem to mind it too much. Because when they announced the game for PS4 and NX at the time, I was completely dedicated to just getting it on NX or getting it on Switch. Because I don't play my PS4 that often as a whole. I usually use it just for exclusives. So I kind of just waited for Dragon Quest to hit the Switch, and then now that I did, I kind of feel like I made the right call. The only thing I feel like I'm missing out is the better visuals, but even then, that's okay because I end up playing Dragon Quest 11 like portably a lot anyways. So I feel like that was a fair enough trade for me. I can understand why some people may not like the music, maybe because of the PS4 version, or maybe they are fans of the series and it just doesn't stack up compared to the games in the past, or whatever the reason is. Maybe you guys can let me know if you are someone who's like a massive fan of Dragon Quest. But I really just wanted to share my sudden love for it because for some reason Square has been a very hit and miss I don't know, developer for me when it comes to RPGs. Like, I like very few Final Fantasy games. Like, I like 6 the most. I like 7, and then everything after that, I'm very, I don't know, meh on. Like, I feel indifferent to. I don't really enjoy Final Fantasy 8 all that much. I wasn't really that into 10. I thought 10 was okay. I didn't like 10 too, and I really did not like 13, and I liked about half of Final Fantasy 15. I did like playing the Dissidia games, but those aren't really, you know, true Final Fantasy games. Those are spin-offs, but you get the point. I didn't really get that into their work with Final Fantasy. I got more into, like, you know, stuff like Chrono Trigger and whatnot. And apparently, Dragon Quest being another long-running franchise that they, you know, develop, made me kind of realize, like, maybe it's just the style that Final Fantasy doesn't appeal to me, but the style that Dragon Quest does. And you know what? That's okay. I think Dragon Quest is just something that I enjoy a lot more, and I feel that from this point forward, I'm probably going to occasionally go back to an older Dragon Quest and play those games, while, you know, eagerly awaiting the next new installment of the franchise, or maybe, you know, checking out the spin-offs and whatnot. It made me want to look at, like, some of the Warriors games I've had before, or like, take, you know, some of the past games more seriously. And maybe when I beat Dragon Quest 11, I'm going to go back and play Dragon Quest 2 and then Dragon Quest 3, and then, you know, maybe buy the 3DS games to play 7 and 8 again, and actually finish them this time. And, I don't know, I just suddenly just felt this large amount of entertainment, or I guess love, for Dragon Quest, and somewhat nostalgic because of me playing 7 and 8 back when I was a kid. And just, even though I didn't know what it was, now that I do know what it was, I feel like I just didn't fully understand what I was doing, and now that I do, I think this is just a series that I missed out on a lot, and I kind of wish I didn't. I wish I really did, you know, give it the time it deserved back then, and I felt like I really missed out on something great here. And I have not finished Dragon Quest 11 yet. I'm still playing through it, so I'm still very much going through it, and, you know, finding out the stuff going on, the story and whatnot. And there are certain moments in the story that's actually really good too. I've seen some people say that Dragon Quest 11 story isn't the best, but at the same time, there's some little moments in there that made me genuinely feel bad for certain characters, and I just really enjoyed getting to know certain characters in the game. I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of gushing about Dragon Quest right now because I've just been playing like the whole, like, I want to say like the last month or so, just playing nothing but Dragon Quest related games. So I guess that's all I really have for you guys. I think I've been playing Dragon Quest for a while now. I didn't understand what it was, and I didn't really understand what I was doing at the time, but Smash Brothers kind of reminded me of a series I had played before, and that interest brought me back. And I think the newer Dragon Quest game is going to keep me around. And I think that's part of the magic of, like, you know, certain characters making it as DLC in Super Smash Brothers. It's like, when they make it in, they renew interest. And I think that, you know, depending on the person, it might even create new fans. But that's all I really have for you guys. Let me know how you guys feel about Dragon Quest, about, I don't know, Smash DLC, or, you know, the power of that whole process, I guess. But let me know in the comments. I'm gonna just go back to playing more Dragon Quest because I'm just totally enthralled with it right now. And yeah, that's really all I have for you guys. So take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.